to another Babble episode. I'm Megan Thomas, and today I'm chatting to Nadine Matheson. Nadine practices as a criminal defence lawyer and also completed an MA at City University London in creative writing in crime and thriller writing. So a perfect combination for a crime novelist, if you ask me. She's also put pen to paper in genres such as domestic fiction and sci-fi. Her debut novel, The Sisters, was published in 2015 by Spectre Books, and her most recent novel, The Jigsaw Man, is out now. It was published earlier this year by HQ. Hi, Nadine, how are you?
I'm very well, Megan. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Where am I chatting to you from today?
You are chatting to me from London, so I'm in South East London today.
Oh, wonderful. I'm actually also. I'm in South East London, and I'm not just saying that because we're obviously in the same room.
It's a gorgeous day today as well, which makes it perfect.
It does. And so the first thing I'd like to know is how these career pieces fit together. I mean, they obviously fit together quite nicely, criminal defense lawyer, crime writer, but how did it all start, and how did you get to where you are today in terms of your career?
Well, I've always written. Since I was a kid, I've been writing stories. I always say that my first book to say was fan fiction, which was The Labyrinth. After I watched The Labyrinth, I wrote my book version of that. But I also always wanted to be a lawyer as well. So all my academic studies went towards being a lawyer. So even though I didn't actually study law at university, I studied history and American studies. But writing was always something I did in the background. So then I qualified as a lawyer, specialising in criminal law, because that was just my passion, if you could have a passion in law. But I really enjoyed doing criminal law. But I was still writing on the side. And then I think it was in 2013, I went freelance. So I was self-employed, and I found I had more time to write. And I wrote my first book, The Sisters, which I self-published myself. And so that's completely different to what I write now. That's domestic fiction, a family drama. And then I carried on writing. I self-published that in 2015. And I was still writing. I was actually working on the sequel to The Sisters when I won the City Writing competition at City University. And that was to win a bursary of their creative writing masters, which was specialising in crime writing. So I was at that point, I feel I actually wanted to start writing crime fiction. So I won the competition, surprisingly, and then I started the MA in 2016, and I had to write a novel to complete it, and that novel was The Jigsaw Man, and that's where we are today.
Amazing. That all follows on really smoothly. I wonder, do you find that things that you experience in your criminal law capacity, or have experienced in that capacity, feed into plot?
Oh, definitely. I think in terms of because I'm now writing police procedurals, and in my professional life, I'm a defence solicitor, defence lawyer. So I know how an investigation works, but for me, I'm always looking for the holes in a prosecution case. So I know how a case is built and what you need to make sure you've got a strong case. So that kind of feeds into fiction writing, into writing police procedural. So I know how to build a case, and I know the little things that can make a case fall apart, which in a sense brings the drama in a police procedural, and especially in The Jigsaw Man.
Yes. And tell me a little more about the MA itself. How is it structured? I did a creative writing MA myself, and I'm often asked really annoying questions like, how do you teach writing? And I think that perhaps actually with crime and thrillers as the central topic, it could be a bit easier because there's such important parts like plotting and structure. But what does kind of the curriculum look like for an MA like this?
I know the curriculum has changed now, but when I did the creative writing masters at City University, they were focusing. You had two options. You could focus on either crime or thriller writing, or you could focus on literary. So obviously I wanted to focus on crime and thrillers. So at the time they split it into terms of learning about plot, learning about structure, learning about characterization, but also giving you the opportunity as a student to experiment with different styles of writing as well. So kind of giving you that freedom to do that. And also we read, as anything, if you're doing creative writing masters, we read a lot. So again, opening up your reading horizon and then dismantling those books to see, how the author put those stories together. And so for me, I found doing the creative writing masters, I don't think you necessarily need a master's to do, to write a book. But for me, I think it helped, especially with crime, especially with plotting and structure and making sure you've got all those elements together that make a really good crime novel.
Mm. And so would you recommend, if someone has the capacity to do one, that they do one?
Well, I would definitely recommend my where I went to university, which was City University, London. But in the United Kingdom, I think there's quite a few universities that have master's programs, creative writing master's programs. So just go on our fabulous Google and do a Google search. But yeah, there's loads of creative writing masters and also short writing programs as well, which are really good. You don't need to spend a year or 2 years. You can do a short 3-month course, and those are just as good as well.
Absolutely. So I think it must be really interesting having the comparative self-publishing experience and then kind of Harper Collins imprint HQ. How did those experiences compare?
I'm laughing because they're completely different. Self-publishing, I think some people can think it's an easy way out and a quick way out to get your book on the shelf, but it requires so much work. And in a sense, the writing becomes the easy bit. Writing the story and get your book finished, that's the easy bit. But the hard work comes in when you have to basically format your book or find the right editor, find someone to do the cover art for your book, and then also finding proofreaders. All of that takes a lot of work and a lot of research. And then the really hard work I found was marketing the book as well. So you're doing everything yourself. Whereas with being traditionally published with HQ, it's the complete opposite. I just write, I just write my story. And I'm obviously that's the fun bit. I just write the story. I work with my editor, to make sure it can be as good as it can be. And obviously I'm involved in the book cover process. So I got to, give my opinion on what I liked and what I didn't like with the book cover process. But then the rest of it, it's up to them. So if you're going to self-publish, I just think you just need to realise it's going to take a lot of work and you have to be prepared. But also find a marketer. But you also have to know your skill set. So if you know marketing is not your skill set, then find someone who can do it. Even if it's your cousin who happens to work in marketing, find someone.
Yeah. If you only have 5 followers on any social media platform and don't really know how to get it out, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, exactly.
And in terms of distribution, did you have kind of a box of books at your house, or was that done by someone?
I did it through Amazon. So if you ordered it through Amazon, you can order the physical paperback, or you can get the ebook. So that Amazon made it really easy with their self-publishing program. Obviously, I had a bunch at home, which I did and gave to friends and family and stuff like that. But yeah, Amazon made the process really easy.
Okay. And I read a couple of reviews of the Jigsaw Man that were describing it as your debut. And I did wonder if maybe does the industry sometimes not consider a first book if it's been self-published, or is it more that they're talking about it's your crime debut?
I think they were talking about it as being my crime debut. Because I think when they announced it in the bookseller that I'd signed with HQ, the bookseller did say that, I'd written The Sisters before. So this is like my debut crime fiction. So I don't think it's the prejudice of any kind against traditionally published or being self-published.
Yeah. And do you have any writing processes, kind of quirks, advice that you can share with us?
I cannot write in silence, but it doesn't mean I can sit in a coffee. Not that we can at the moment, but I can't sit in a coffee shop and write around people. So I need to be on my own, but I need to have some kind of background noise behind me. So I've always got like the radio on or music on. In terms of quirks, when I'm editing, I have these special, they're not special pens, but they're like the pens I need. And if I outline, I only outline in pencil. It's just odd. But I think for me, when I'm outlining my book, it's because I can get rid of stuff, I can erase it and put stuff in. So those are like my little quirks. And then if I get stuck, I don't call it writer's block, but if I just get stuck with a certain chapter, my go-to is like I just go for the sugar. So I've probably got like a bag of sweets on the side of my desk. But what I always say is that if you do get stuck, if you do get, stuck in a particular corner with terms of your character or plot, just walk away from it for a while. So my thing is like, I've got the river near my house, so I will just walk out, even just for 10 minutes and then come back. And also accept also that some days, if you write 250 words, that's a good writing day. And if it's more than that, then, well, that's fantastic. But don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, especially because the Jigsaw Man is set in London, I feel like you could just go walk around the areas you're talking about and it could count as a recce to describe everything happening on the road that day.
It is. And it's because I've set the Jigsaw Man in South East London. That's an area where I still live. So when I am driving around or walking around, I am looking at like buildings or certain parks and thinking, oh, I wonder if that could work for this chapter. And I do that all the time.
Yeah. Could a body be stashed under that?
Honestly, that I was walking in the park yesterday because I just needed a breakaway from the book, from book 2 that I'm working on. And the little area of the park, I thought you could literally hide someone there and people wouldn't necessarily notice unless you started digging. So I do have these little thoughts in my head.
And I'd love to know more about your mentoring scheme, kind of what it is, how it started, how it's going, and how someone interested could get involved.
Yeah, it started last year because we were all in lockdown. And in addition to obviously working as a lawyer, I'd also teach in a law school, but all that is freelance. So a lot of the courses that I was teaching, everything just got pushed back to 2021. So I found I had time. And then obviously we had the whole Black Lives Matters movement happening, and also the fact that it was getting recognised that a lot of underrepresented writers wasn't being promoted and there wasn't enough opportunities for them. And a lot of the time we don't know how to get into the industry, so to speak, and we don't often know. We think we need to know someone to get in. So I just thought it would be an opportunity to offer like my services to underrepresented writers. And there's some I've been doing like a 6-month scheme with, and some I've just been doing one-off one-to-ones. And we just spend an hour together. I go through their work in progress, give them advice, they ask me questions. And that's how the mentoring started from last summer. So normally on a quarterly basis, I open up applications for the free mentoring for underrepresented writers. And it's something I really get a lot from. I really enjoy it. And it's nice to see someone's confidence, their writing confidence has really grow, and also let them realize that, they are worthy and they can be recognized and there is room for them out there and for their stories. So that's how my mentoring works. I said I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I think a lot of the time, all people really need is someone to say to them, you're allowed to do this. That's very good. Keep going.
Exactly. A lot of the questions I had from my mentees was, well, can I write this? Is it okay for me to write this? And I'm like, absolutely, just write your story, whatever your story is. If it involves UFOs landing in the middle of Greenwich Park, if that's your story, write your story. So don't feel you need permission to write it. So yeah, it's a lot of it giving people the confidence to just tell their story.
And the Jigsaw Man does touch on some really pertinent themes kind of in the wake of Black Lives Matter and just generally at this strange time in the world, certainly of whose stories we hear. And even on a crime level, you're talking about kind of which stories make the news, how many young Black women don't get proper investigations when they go missing. And that is something that you've tackled really well and interestingly in the book. Was that an important thing for you to discuss?
It was important, but it's really odd. It wasn't something I initially planned to happen in the story. It just became a part of the story. But then I think from my working life as a lawyer, and also just generally just living in this world, you've seen how much, I would say, how much priority or how much TV time, how much screen time is given to missing people or victims of colour, which has been a lot less than anyone else. And I just thought it was, that needed to be shown, and for the effect on the victims' families, for that to be shown as well. Because I think the worst thing is to, have your member of your family be harmed or be missing, and for the people you expect to be doing the work and looking out for them and finding them and searching them, and you want to see the press conferences on TV, and then not seeing that has to be just as heartbreaking as, as your child or your friend missing, also, just to feel like they've been forgotten and then you have to do all the work. And also, I think with the Jigsaw Man as well, because my lead character, my Detective Inspector Henley, and she's a Black woman, and her partner Remuta is an Asian man, and there's a lot of experiences of which I call subtle racism that everyone else wouldn't normally pick up, but I think we would pick up on those little signs, and I think it was important to show that in the book as well. So hopefully I've done that, and that's recognised by the readers.
Yes, and even just all sorts of discrimination. The fact that when the two of them arrive and someone immediately goes to her male partner to say, he must be the leader of the case. Actually, no, I'm her assistant.
And it's not just racism, it's sexism as well. So some of it is just, it's just, as you said, the assumption in that scene. And it's one of the scenes, in a way, I enjoyed writing, because it happens. And the governor in the scene, he assumes that Remuta is the boss and he's the lead investigator. And Remuta has to stand back and kind of have this bit of embarrassment as like, no, I'm just a trainee, like she's the boss.
Yeah. And you've done that really funnily as well. And it's woven into the novel in a way that it doesn't feel like you've kind of, I don't know, got a checklist of things that bug you put into the book. It's more just you're representing reality. And unfortunately right now that is all very much a part of reality. Exactly.
In a lot of instances, they're not something that happened. They're not just in your face. It's just something that's just interwoven just through your daily life, and could happen. It could happen when you said you're just going to the coffee shop, for example. So I didn't want it, as you said, to be a checklist of I've got racism down, I've got sexism down, I've got mental health. I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted it to feel natural throughout the story.
It definitely is, and I highly recommend everybody give it a read. I don't think we've given away too many spoilers, but definitely enough.
No, not at all. Oh, definitely not. Definitely haven't given away spoilers.
Yeah, you'd need to sit down with me for a while if I needed to properly spoil it, to be fair. And it has been translated into a couple of languages. It's being published all over the world, which is very exciting. Have you been involved in that process at all?
That's all down to the fantastic work of my agent, Ollie Monson from AM Heath, and the rights team. They're the ones who have gotten the deal. So, because when I signed, I didn't expect I didn't expect to get an agent. That's just me. And then, getting published, that was like a big milestone. But when all these foreign publishers started coming on board saying we want to publish the book, I was like, that's crazy. So I think it's 13 at the moment. So it's a good number. There can be more.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic number.
Yeah, it just keep growing, really. And
what's really cool as well is that with each publisher, international publisher, you get a different book cover as well. So it's really interesting process to see how like Finland or Russia or Germany would interpret the Jigsaw Man in terms of the book cover and how they present it. So that's really interesting to be a part of.
Yeah, and even the subtleties. I think, is it the US one that's just Jigsaw Man? It's not the Jigsaw Man. Is that right?
It's the Jigsaw Man. No, it's still called the Jigsaw Man in the US. The German one is just Jigsaw Man.
Jigsaw Man, right.
Yeah, but they said they didn't have the words for jigsaw, so it's the Night of the Killers or something like that. In German on the bottom. But the US cover, I said, is completely different to the UK cover, and vice versa with the rest of them.
Yeah, and that's when it's such a pleasure to have somebody that knows the market doing that kind of thing for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so tell me a little bit more about the sequel.
Oh, book
what you
two.
can.
I'm in the middle of editing book two at the moment. And it's odd. Some people don't like editing. I enjoy editing. I like fixing things. It feels like I'm fixing things and making sure I'm putting the story together. But book two, we're back with Henley and Remuta, and they're investigating the murder of a pastor. And when Henley and Remuta arrive at the church, they find the dead pastor. But Henley then she's obviously searching the church as part of the investigation, and she finds a body in a concealed room. And it turns out that the victim in that room may have been subject to someone performing exorcisms. So that is as much as I can go into book two.
That's enough to get me excited. And I mean, I had such a joy. I didn't read the Jigsaw Man. I listened to it as an audiobook, which is also so lovely. That process must also be another element that kind of a publisher can get.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, you can do audiobooks from self-publishing. There's loads of facilities for you to do that. That's a possibility. But obviously, traditionally published, it was, again, they kind of take control of it, but they they presented the auditions for the possible narrators. So that was really good to be involved in choosing a narrator. And the thing is, when you hear, I mean, I'm so involved with the Jigsaw Man, because obviously I wrote it and I spent years on it and working it and editing and doing all sorts. But it's only when you hear the words of your novel spoken from someone else that you can truly see what everyone else is seeing.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just my book and I've just written it. But hearing the narrator, hearing Nadine Henry narrate, it was just, there were moments I actually had to stop what I was doing. And also hearing Olivier, when Olivier was doing certain things, so that's the serial killer in the book, when he was doing certain things, and I had to stop and say to myself, you really are terrible. You're not a good person. And I kind of lost sight of that when I was working on it. But yeah, the audiobooks are a different, really good experience.
Yeah, how exciting to kind of see them brought to life, because I imagine in your head they also all sound like you.
One of my brothers said he couldn't read it. So yes, the audiobook, because he goes, all he can hear is me when he was. I know what the characters sound like in my head. So I know what Olivier sounds like. I know what Henley and Remuta sound like. I don't know what they look like, though, which is really odd. I can't envision them that way, but I can hear them. So I can hear their voices. But it was still good to hear someone else, being them.
Yeah. And so if it were to kind of be option for a movie, you'd have no idea who you'd want cast.
Oh, I do now. I mean, it's been an option for TV, which is cool.
Exciting. Congrats.
Thank you. So cross fingers, it makes it to the screens. But in my head, I did have Michael Fassbender as Olivier. I just thought he'd be a really, really good Olivier. And then I had Naomi Harris maybe as Henley. I thought she would be good. So those are my fantasy casting.
Yeah. Well, we'll get in touch with them shortly and demand it. Well, Nadine, it's been such a pleasure to chat to you today and kind of hear the voice behind the work that I've been consuming nonstop for the last couple of weeks. Thank you to our audience for listening. I thoroughly recommend you get your hands on the Jigsaw Man and that you follow Nadine and Babel on social media, because we'll be sharing all the latest news. And yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Thank you so much. I've had a fantastic time. Thanks for having me.